Hello, friends. Leading India's future, aligning values, mastering uncertainty, and driving indispensability. I was just looking at the India Economic Survey of 2025-26, wherein chapter 16 speaks about strategic resilience and strategic indispensability. I wish to put my thoughts on this subject before you. Good morning to all esteemed leaders. It's an honor to stand before you today at a pivotal moment for our nation and for the world. We are living through an era of unprecedented change where geopolitical landscapes shift daily, technological advancements redefine industries, and global economic forces test the very fabric of our societies. Yet, amidst this flux, India stands resilient, poised for a future of strategic indispensability. The journey ahead is not merely about navigating external challenges, it is fundamentally about the quality of our leadership, the clarity of our vision, the strength of our character, and the unwavering alignment of our actions with our deepest values. You, as leaders, are not just managers of tasks, you are architects of the future, entrusted with the challenging assignments that demand not just the skill, but profound personal and strategic insight. Today, over the next hour or so, we will embark on a transformative exploration. We will delve into the core drivers of who you are and how you lead. Examine the critical role you play in India's strategic alignment to strengthen your values, align your values, and set priorities that drive this monumental impact. This is not just a theoretical exercise, it is a call to action designed to inspire, motivate, and empower you to lead with a purpose, precision, and an unshakable commitment to our collective future. So, this webinar I have designed into three powerful segments. In part one, we shall see the inner compass, values, value driven leadership. We will explore the fundamental values that shape your decisions and the leadership style, understand how your emotions influence your journey, and outline strategies for profound self alignment. In part two, we shall speak about the strategic leader navigating a fragmented world. We will contextualize your leadership within India's ambitious journey towards strategic indispensability, examine the crucial role of state capacity, entrepreneurial governance, and the symbiotic relationship between the private sector, citizens, and national progress. Then we have a part three where we shall speak about action and alignment, setting priorities and driving the impact. This segment will translate grand strategies into tangible actions, focusing on strategic indigenization, advanced manufacturing, the power of deregulation, and a robust framework for setting personal and organizational developmental goals that leverage your strengths and skills. So prepare yourself to engage, reflect, and emerge with a renewed sense of purpose and a clear roadmap for an impactful leadership. The future of India, a Vikasit Bharat, a developed India, depends on leaders like you. So let us delve into part one, the inner compass, value driven leadership. Let us look into this first segment of today's session, where we turn our focus inward to the very essence of what drives us as leaders. Before we can effectively lead organizations, teams, or even nations through complex challenges, we must first understand ourselves. Our ultimate values are the bedrock of our character, the fundamental drivers that dictate our decisions, influence our leadership style, and ultimately determine our maturity and success. So, in understanding your ultimate values, imagine your values as an internal compass, an internal GPS system that is constantly guiding your choices. These aren't just abstract concepts, they are certain deeply held beliefs about what truly matters to you. The document we are facing, that's the economic survey of 2025-2026, highlights 10 ultimate values, each with an ideal priority level that we should strive for to achieve greater levels of maturity and success. Let's explore these, not just as merely definitions, but as lenses through which to view your own leadership. The first one is altruism, which is of very high priority. What is it? It is a desire to serve others, to improve everything. In general, the economy in general. So, how does the leadership impact? The leaders who are driven by altruism prioritize the well being of their team, their organization, and society at large. They foster a culture of service, collaboration, and collective improvement. This value is paramount in nation building, where individual success is intertwined with societal progress. It encourages leaders to look beyond immediate gains to sustainable, equitable development. How can we strengthen altruism? Actively seek opportunities to mentor, empower, and uplift others. Frame decisions not just by profit or power, but by their broader social impact. Champion initiatives that benefit the community or the undeserved. The second is affiliation, which is again of a high priority. This involves social interactions. A high priority on affiliation for a leader means valuing strong relationships, fostering teamwork, and building cohesive units. Leaders with this value excel at networking, collaboration, and creating environments where people feel connected and supported. In a world of fragmented efforts, the ability to build and maintain strong alliances, both internal and external, is crucial for achieving complex objectives. How can we strengthen this affiliation? Invest time in building genuine relationships with your team, peers, and stakeholders. Create platforms for open communication and encourage dialogues, celebrate success, share experiences, provide support during challenges. Then the third is tradition, which is of medium to high priority, which is appropriate social behavior, morality, high standards. Now, this is one sensitive area which is largely lacking in our society. How can a leadership impact them on this in this area? This value underpins integrity, ethical conduct, and a commitment to excellence. Leaders who value tradition uphold organizational values. The culture in an organization maintain high standards of quality and behavior. Ensure decisions that are grounded in moral disciplines, moral principles. In the Indian context, it resonates with the Swadeshi as a disciplined strategy grounded in quality and ethical production and the deep rooted cultural values of duty and service. How can we strengthen this value of tradition? Consistently model ethical behavior. Establish clear standards and hold yourself and your team accountable. Integrate ethical considerations into all decision making processes. Uphold the legacy of your organization while adapting to modern challenges. Even in the world, even in the recent advent of AI. Then there is a commercial value, which is of medium priority, that is earning money, realizing profit. How can a leadership impact? Well, it's not the highest priority. Commercial acumen is essential for sustainability and growth. Leaders must ensure that there are initiatives which are financially viable. Otherwise, why will you engage? Generate the resources and contribute to economic strength. This value drives efficiency, innovation in revenue generation, and a clear understanding of the market and long term sustainability with ethical considerations. It's about being smart. It's smart growth, not growth at any cost. How can you align your commercial values, balance profit motives with ethical considerations and long term sustainability? Seek innovative ways to create economic value while adhering to the higher priority values like altruism and tradition. Understand that commercial success provides resources to pursue other values. Then the next one is hedonism. Medium, which is of again of a medium priority. It's a desire for fun, excitement, variety while engaging in your organizational goals. How does a leadership impact? The leaders who embrace hedonism can bring the energy, creativity, and a positive outlook to their teams. They understand the importance of work life balance, fostering engaging environments, and encouraging innovation through exploration and new avenues of for a dynamic workplace. How can you manage this hedonism? Channel this desire, particularly of the youth generation today, into creating an enjoyable work environment, celebrating the achievements, and fostering creative problem solving. Encourage healthy breaks and activities that rejuvenate the team. Ensure that the pursuit of excitement doesn't overshadow responsibility or accountability or even the long term strategic goals. Then, next comes power. The desire for achievement, competition, getting ahead. This is again like the previous three, it's of medium priority. How can a leadership impact? Power in a healthy sense, it drives ambition, competitiveness, and the pursuit of excellence. Leaders with this value are often high achievers, motivated to overcome obstacles and lead their organization to success. It's about the power to achieve, to make a difference, to influence outcomes positively. But how can you manage this power? Because excess of power also can get into ego issues or arrogance. So direct this drive towards collective achievement and organizational goals, not just personal gain. Use your influence to empower others and elevate the team. Engage in a healthy competition that spurs innovation and higher standards rather than a cutthroat rivalry. The next one is recognition, which is of course important, but it is of medium priority. Desire to be known, visible, self display, famous, the exhibitionism kind of thing. So, how does the leadership impact? The desire for recognition can motivate leaders to strive for excellence, innovation, and make visible contributions. But it can also drive effective communication and branding for an organization. When balanced, it fuels a drive for impactful work that gains deserved visibility. But this also needs to be managed. Recognition needs to be managed. Seek recognition for the team's achievement, not just your own. Ensure visibility is a byproduct of genuine impact and value creation rather than a primary pursuit. Use your platform to amplify important messages and inspire others, and also value the contribution of others. The next value is security, which is again of medium priority. This aspect covers up structure, predictability, prudence. How can leadership impact in this area? Leaders who value security prioritize stability in the organization, risk management, and engage in careful planning. They ensure robust systems are in place, predictable processes, and a cautious approach to uncertain situations, providing for a stable foundation for growth. Otherwise, we'll be only managing disasters. In a volatile world, this value is crucial for maintaining resilience. How can we have a balance in this security, the value of security? Well, it is crucial for stability. Ensure prudence. It doesn't lead to paralysis or excessive risk aversion. Foster a culture where calculated risks are understood and managed, especially in an entrepreneurial state context that requires learning from experimentation. Build robust systems, but also foster adaptability to those systems. Then comes science as a value. It's low to medium, which is analytical, new ideas, technology. How can a leadership impact? Now, in these days where technology is given high priority, here it's not essentially a low priority in implementation or as a strategy, but as a leadership impact. How do you use technology? This value, as a value, I'm telling about not the use or technology in the processes, but as a value, it of course drives curiosity, evidence-based decision making, and an embrace of innovation and technology. Leaders with a scientific bent are analytical, data driven, and open to new ideas, essential for navigating rapid technological disruption. Now, here again, I would like to just mention, although I will talk about it later on in detail, about the methodology, how we can use technology for evaluating your leadership values. Values generally, you may say, it cannot be quantified. It's a value. It's to be experienced, but its impact in terms of the results seen by others in your impact in the organization and in the goals achieved. It can be quantified and it can be measured. For that, we have certain tools and techniques about which I shall tell you later on. How do we cultivate the science? Encourage continuous learning, research, and experimentation within your teams. So these tools which we are having, which is called MLEI, CPR 260, and IPO, iPod or this. There are three tools actually, which I'll be talking to you later on, and those will be used for experimentation, research, and analyzing your impact on your teams and how effective they feel in response to the application of those tools. So it promotes data-driven insights and a culture of asking why and how. Integrate new technologies thoughtfully to enhance efficiency and effectiveness. And the last but not the least, aesthetics. It's a low to medium priority, which is art, literature, culture, imagination. How can a leadership impact? While seemingly less direct, an appreciation for aesthetics can foster creativity, innovative design thinking, and a holistic understanding of the human experience. It can inspire compelling narratives and a focus on quality and user experience in the products that you design and the services that you offer. And these, as a leader, you can nurture these aesthetics. How you can do that? It's by encouraging the creative thinking and problem solving. Value the design and user experience in your offerings. Foster a rich organizational culture that appreciate the diverse perspectives that the clients, even your own employees, who may express at different forums and recognize for their appreciate, recognize, acknowledge at least, and then see possibilities of implementation. Now, take a moment. Let's just take a moment to reflect on your own leadership journey. Looking at all these 10 values that I have mentioned, how do these values currently manifest in your decisions? Are there areas where your current actions might be out of sync with these ideal priorities? Leadership maturity is a continuous journey. It's a continuous journey of self awareness as you look within at your core values and how you are responding in terms or what choices or what decisions that you are making in terms of those values will determine how aligned you are to your organizational goals. And here comes emotional intelligence for leaders, which plays a great role in mastering your inner landscape, how you are present within your team and for your team. Ultimately, our values are often tested and shaped by our emotional states. There are 8 emotional states that profoundly impact your leadership style. Now, these are not essentially negative, but yes, they have a negative tone to it. They are fear, anxiety, guilt, worry, sadness, anger, depression, and loneliness. These might look as weaknesses, which are essentially we try to suppress them, but they are signals. They are signals to be understood and managed. How will we manage them? Let's look at it one by one. Fear. That is, when do we have fear? Fear is that is apprehension of some kind of a danger or pain that you might foresee. And how does it impact on your leadership? It can lead to paralysis, indecision, inability to make choices, make decisions, or overly conservative strategies. This can prevent you as a leader from taking necessary risk or embracing something new, an innovation. How can you overcome this? The strategy to overcome this is acknowledge the fear first. Accept that you're afraid of facing it, but don't allow it to dictate. Focus on gathering the information, scenario planning, and building resilience. Cultivate the courage by taking calculated risks and learning from the outcomes, whatever may be the outcome. Next one is anxiety. We've all felt anxiety, anxious. This feeling of anxiety or worry, nervousness or unease, typically about an event that's going to happen or something which is where the outcome is uncertain. How can it impact your leadership? It can lead to micromanagement. You start thinking of every small thing, overthinking, or an inability to delegate it to somebody else. It erodes trust and can create a stressful environment for your team members. So, what's the strategy that you can practice? Practice mindfulness. Look at yourself whenever you feel that anxious, that worry coming up in you, and observe stress reduction techniques. Focus on what you can control. Communicate openly with your team about what you're anxious about so that there is a shared anxieties which gets alleviated. Delegate it effectively and trust your team. The third one is guilt. A feeling of responsibility or remorse for an offense, real or it may be real or even imagined. That guilt feeling, a pain in the neck. This impacts your leadership how? It can lead to self-sabotage and inability to take tough decisions or overcompensation. It can hinder a leader's ability to hold others accountable. Strategy to overcome this guilt, feeling of guilt, is distinguish between constructive remorse, that is learning from mistakes, and the one which paralyzes you, that kind of a guilt that paralyzes you. Focus on making amends and moving forward. Understand that institutional forgiveness, just as an individual forgiveness is necessary sometimes, all the time, even institutional forgiveness is essential for an entrepreneurial organization, and it has to be learned. The next one is worry, allowing one's mind to dwell on difficulties or troubles all the time. How does it impact your leadership? Just like anxiety, worry consumes a lot of mental energy, even physical energy, and it can lead to a lack of focus on strategic priorities. It can also be contagious within the team. If you are worried, if you are anxious, that spreads to all the team members. What's the strategy to overcome this? Channel that worry into proactive problem solving. You should look at solutions rather than the problems as a problem. Break down the larger problem into smaller, manageable steps. If it's a whole year's problem, divide it into monthly, then divide it into weekly, and then divide it into daily actionable steps. Focus on actionable solutions rather than dwelling on potential negative outcomes. You don't have a loss at the end of the year, but you manage it every day. Then comes sadness. We all get sad for some reason or the other. It could be emotional pain, loss of some people, somebody in the family, or feeling of a disadvantage, feeling that you have lost something, or you are less by something. A loss, a despair, a grief, a certain helplessness, disappointment, or even sorrow. All these come under sadness. How does it impact your leadership? Definitely impacts, right? It reduces motivation. It leads to withdrawal. You just go into your shell. It impairs decision making. And prolonged sadness can affect the entire team's morale and productivity. The strategy to overcome this? Allow yourself to feel that sorrow and process that sadness and seek healthy coping mechanisms. These healthy coping mechanisms are so many. Go for music or gym or learn on your support network. Reframe the setbacks as learning opportunities. Focus on the larger purpose and the positive impact you can still make. Then, big one, anger. A strong feeling of annoyance, displeasure, hostility to people. It impacts the leadership. It can lead to impulsive decisions, a strained relationship, and a hostile work environment. It erodes trust and effective communication. So the strategy is recognize what is it that triggers this anger and develop strategies for managing that triggering element. Pause at that moment. Take deep breaths. Look inwards and reframe your response to that situation. Channel the frustration into constructive action. Address conflicts directly and calmly, focusing on solutions rather than blaming somebody. Another big one, depression. That seems to be there inherent in society these days. A state of low mood, aversion to activity that can affect a person's thoughts, behaviors, feelings, even a sense of well being. Feel depressed all the time. It does affect leadership, right? Severely impacts. It impairs your judgment, your motivation, and ability to connect with others. It can lead to prolonged periods of inaction, incapacitated, and even for prolonged period of time, it can lead to organizational stagnation itself. Nothing happening in the company. So, what's the strategy to overcome as a leader? This is a serious condition, particularly when it has affected the leader. It requires professional support. Leaders must prioritize their mental health and seek help when needed. Do not neglect. Creating a supportive environment for mental well being in the workplace is also crucial. And then we have loneliness. We are all impacted by the micro family system right now. The units, just a one person family, two persons family. Sadness because there's no friends or company. It impacts leaderships because the leaders often feel that they have to bear all the burden by themselves. And it leads to a sense of isolation. This can hinder open communication, reduce the diverse inputs that you can get, and lead to poor decision making because there is no different points of view. Strategy is to actively build a strong network of trusted advisors, mentors, and peers. Foster an open communication system, open channels within your team. Remember that affiliation is a high priority value. Actively seek social interactions and connections. So, this economic survey 2025-2026 speaks of strategies for resilience. So, actionable strategies for emotional resilience is, let's spell out a few of them. One is self awareness. Regularly check within yourself for what is your emotional condition, your emotional state. Journaling, meditation, or simple reflection can help you identify the triggers and the patterns or the loops that you get entangled into all the time. And for regulating this emotional regulation is develop healthy coping mechanisms like spending time in exercise, spending time in nature, mindfulness practices, or creative outlets. Seek support. Don't be afraid to reach out to your trusted colleagues, mentors, or even mental health professionals. Leadership is not a solitary journey. Empathy. Understand that your team members also experience these emotions. Empathy, generally, you feel that you have to put yourself in the shoes of others. But does it mean that you actually put yourself in the shoes? It just means that you think from his point of view. So for that, you have to foster sort of an atmosphere of safety. You provide a container where they feel approachable, that you're approachable, and they feel psychological safety, and their emotions are acknowledged and discussed constructively. The next is purpose driven focus. We should have a focus, but it should be purpose driven. That is, when you think of altruism and the larger purpose of your work, it can provide you the perspective, the context, and the motivation when these emotional states are challenging you. So, by understanding and intentionally aligning the ultimate values and by mastering our emotional responses, we lay the foundation for a leadership that is authentic, resilient, and deeply impactful. This is the inner work, that is the inner core that we call it, and for which we have a tool known as MLEI, which we'll be implementing to understand how your inner core is reflected in your work atmosphere, work relationships, and in the results that you or in the outcomes that people see in your work environment. This inner work is not a luxury. It is a strategic imperative for any leader tasked with steering a company, a corporate, a state, or even a nation like India towards its ambitious future of Atmanirbhar Bharat. With that, we come to an end of this part one. Here, if you'd like, we can have a small break. Now we continue with part two, the strategic leader. The strategic leader who has to navigate through this fragmented world. In the second segment, we shift our focus from our inner landscape of leadership to the dynamic external environment of our nation, of the states, of our politics, of our economy, and our economy in the world economy, world geopolitics. Specifically, India's strategic position in a rapidly evolving global order. Now, you as leaders are not operating in a vacuum. Your decisions contribute directly to the nation's capacity to navigate through complex uncertainties and achieve its vision of strategic indispensability. So, in India's strategic context, from resilience to indispensability, we are moving from resilience to indispensability. Now, this global environment where we are in, which is currently, it is characterized by geopolitical fragmentation, strategic trade, volatile capital flows, and rapid technological disruptions. The old assumptions of open trade and stable interdependence no longer hold good. In this complex world, India has demonstrated remarkable resilience, preserving financial stability and maintaining growth despite repeated global shocks. However, the nature of India's development challenge is changing, and we have to change according to changing times. It's no longer just about macroeconomic management. It's about the depth and quality of the capacity of the corporates, of the states, of the nation. So, how do we develop this strategic resilience versus strategic indispensability? How do we move from strategic resilience? What is expected of us? Strategic resilience. This is the ability to absorb the shocks and yet preserve the stability. This has come from different quarters in the world. From the West, from the Europe, from other parts, India has excelled here, weathering the global financial crisis mainly because of a strong central banking system, a strong financial sector in this country. And also we have navigated through pandemics and the geopolitical tensions. It's about building buffers now. strengthening the internal capabilities so that we ensure continuity. Think of it as a strong defense mechanism in the economic sector. Strategic indispensability. This is a higher aspiration. Indispensable. That means it cannot be done without. Yes, we offer a big market. But it's not only offering a big market. We have a large youth force. We do offer scope for consumption, but it's about becoming a source of reliability, which is where we are lacking, a capability and value for others. It means integrating the India's economy with the global systems in such a way that others cannot bypass. It's about exercising your influence without coercion, without force, where nations align with you voluntarily, along with willingness to India's interests, because it serves them as well. This is not just about simply defending, it's about leading and shaping the global narrative. So, what is your role as leaders in this transition from strategic resilience to strategic indispensability? Every decision that you're going to make, every initiative you champion, every team that you lead contributes to this national goal. Whether you're in the private sector, public administration, or a social enterprise, your capacity to learn, to adapt, to coordinate and execute at a scale, it directly impacts India's journey towards becoming a global economic powerhouse and a reliable partner. So we have to build the state's capacity. What is a leader's imperative? State capacity means the government's ability to get the right things done effectively, designing, implementing, and delivering the policies. But it's not just about the government policies, it's a composite outcome shaped by all the stakeholders. For leaders, this translates into fostering specific behaviors and institutional designs. So, when we mention embracing entrepreneurial governance, now governance we all know as far as the government is concerned. Now, so for an entrepreneurial governance, what is a challenge? The traditional bureaucracies often struggle with risk aversion. Wherever there is risk, it's a big no-no. Fragmented accountability, almost nil, and proceduralism. You want to skip procedures. This hinders decisive and adaptive action. Good faith decisions are subjected to retrospective scrutiny. That is, good faith, you act in good faith. It's only when things go wrong. As long as things don't go wrong, so it is subject to retrospective scrutiny, often without adequate recognition of the uncertainty under which they were taken. So, what will be your strategy in this case? Foster experimentation. Create a bounded institutional space within your teams or departments where experimentation is encouraged. Means there can be failure, but learning from failure is prioritized. So errors are there, errors are acceptable, but stagnation is not. You can't be stuck with those errors. So it is outcome oriented. Have an outcome oriented approach. Evaluate success based on results and learn from the impact, not just adherence to processes. Step by step, you follow the process and that's it. No, you need to see the impact of that processes. Shift from simply rule following to outcome oriented bureaucracy. And then learn from failure. Cultivate an environment where reversible failure is acceptable. And course correction is a mark of competence rather than a weakness. Of course, this requires distinguishing between honest errors and malpractices. Learning without forgiveness leads to paralysis. Optimization of organizational design for outcomes. The challenge here is as organizations grow, naturally the functional structures will have to be reoriented, readapted, and it can lead to fragmented responsibilities and blurred priorities, even blurred accountabilities. So, what will be your strategy? It will be mission-oriented structures. Organize your teams around clearly articulated missions and outcomes with explicit objective and time frames. This promotes focus and accountability. And be very clear about ownership. Ensure that there is a clear, identifiable focus of ownership for the outcomes. Whatever the outcome, that person will be responsible. It cannot be blamed on someone else, blamed on others or systems. Responsibility for actions may be distributed, but accountability for results must be visible and reviewable. Then there should be a dynamic balance. Strive for a balance between functional depth, that is, your expertise in that matter, in that area or in that domain, and mission for cluster alignment. That is your mission and your expertise in that area. This allows for both utilization of specialized knowledge and integrated execution. Now, here we can take lessons from the Niti Ayog's SSM, which encourages the state support mission, which encourages state institutions for transformation. Essentially, mission oriented think tanks for strategic planning. But I don't know how effective they have been, but its intention was that this model of dedicated units for critical outcomes is highly transferable to any large organization. The same model can be applied to any larger organization, even states as well. The next area is human systems. The culture, skills, execution, what we call what this economic survey calls as karma yogi. Now the challenge here is institutions act through individuals. Institutions are impersonal, but who performs? The individuals who belong to those institutions. Institutions have policies. As policy challenges become more complex, the quality of public outcomes depends on how these people, these individuals, the civil servants, or by extension, all the team members interpret their roles, exercise their judgment, and engage with the stakeholders. Do they accept their roles? Are they able to reflect the level of engagement or the level of presence they need in the situations they are forced into? And how do they engage with the stakeholders? How do they communicate? How do they negotiate? So, your strategy here would be citizen centric service. So, what will be the guiding factor, the theme? Adopt the egos of Jana Bhagidari, that is, people's participation, and Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas, Sabka Vishwas, Sabka Prayas, which has been the theme over the past 10 years, together with all, development for all, trust of all, efforts of all, but credit for all. This means valuing responsiveness, accessibility, and a sense of fairness across the board. This also requires continuous learning. Promote a culture of continuous learning and competency mapping. This we have in our the tools that we are going to be using in this process for evaluating our leaders. So, in a world where AI has unsettled that comfort of static job, adaptability and willingness to learn the new skills are extremely important. And what will anchor you in this ethical, what will be the ethical anchors that will reinforce? It is values such as duty, service, and collective purpose, which is almost to say an implementation of a mission like zeal of a karma yogi. This aligns the professional identity with the public purpose, strengthening trust. This will, of course, also require teamwork. For complex project oriented tasks, it can be possible, the flexibility is possible only when there is a team formation. Supplement the core capacity with young professionals, domain specialists. This will add to the depth and speed also. So the next area is the private corporate sector and its participation in nation building as envisaged in this Economic Survey 2025-26. The private sector is not merely a subject of regulation. We have rules, laws, Companies Act, and on all the regulations, and they merely have to follow them or just be compliance. No, it is a structural participant in building state capacity. And what is the challenge here? Historically, the Indian corporate sector have exhibited a relative lack of willingness, a lack towards long-term risk taking. आज का आज देखेंगे कल का देखा जाएगा. But this will not help in the long term or when we want to become globally competitive. Because because then what we do, we try to find loopholes in the regulatory arbitrage or protected margins, how to find via media. Capital allocation horizons can be short with low research R&D intensity. So what will be the strategy that we can follow? Have a long-term vision. As leaders in the private sector, embrace a vision that extends beyond short-term profits. Invest in innovation, R&D, which used to be quite a big thing in the past, and long-term capability building. Develop global competitiveness, demand excellence, and strive for global standards. When firms cannot rely on protection or discretion or rent extraction and must compete on productivity, they develop a direct interest in strong, predictable, and impartial public institutions. So, how can the steward, the one who regulates the leader, he will emulate the international precedents from East Asia or post-war America, how they recovered from the down in the dumps kind of situation, and Germany, where business leaders viewed their firms as institutions embedded as a national project. Frame corporate ambition in terms of what it does for India's productivity, India's employment quality, and international standing. This is about marrying the commercial dynamism with a conscious contribution or willingness to contribute towards nation building. Then comes a citizen's leader. The citizen as a leader. How he can co-create towards this nation building. We often feel as individuals we are nobody. But state capacity is co-produced through the everyday behavior of each tax-paying citizen, whether tax-paying or not, in this society. Your role as a leader extends to influencing and embodying the citizen's responsibility. This is often ignored. We often feel after retirement we have to enjoy retirement. No. Our responsibility as a citizen continues. Eternal vigilance is a price we pay for democracy. The challenge is where people constantly negotiate rules or look for shortcuts, The state has to tighten enforcement, create more paperwork, spend energy in policing behavior, which slows everything down. And this makes it all the more frustrating for everyone. So this is evident when we try to compare the private sector spaces and public or which is the public or government departments. So what will be your strategy? The model would be responsible behavior. Adhere to rules, value public systems, show care for shared spaces. The ethic weakens once one steps outside the door. It's a collective challenge we must collectively overcome. Another one less practiced is delayed gratification. Champion the principle of delayed gratification, which means incur the near term costs for returns that are uncertain or delayed and often invisible in the short term. Just like plant a tree today. You may not its fruits. Your grandchildren may enjoy it. So that is delayed gratification. This means avoiding shortcuts that undermine long-term credibility and building competence through disciplined effort. Lifelong learning. Who can underestimate or discount this? It inspires your teams and communities to embrace learning as a lifelong companion. In a technologically driven world, the humility to adapt without feeling diminished will be as important as raw intelligence. Health and well being. Promote physical and mental well being. Looking after one's physical health, having a good night's sleep, finding time for quiet space, for exercise are all forms of self care that strengthen your ability to work steadily and have a lifelong learning system, to think clearly, to respond with maturity rather than on impulse, and then react to the circumstances that we find ourselves in this world today, and to help the community in navigating through this chaos. A reliable society requires an inner stability. So, by strategically aligning your leadership with these principles, fostering an entrepreneurial spirit, optimizing organizational design, nurturing the human capability, driving private sector responsibility, and becoming a responsible citizen, embodying a citizen stewardship, you can become a powerful force in building the strategic indispensability that our survey, the India Economic Survey 2025-26 seeks. The journey from resilience to influence is a collective one, demanding leadership that is both internally aligned and externally strategic. So we can have another break. This concludes part 2, which I'll once again join for part 3. Welcome back to part 3, action and alignment. Setting priorities and driving the impact. So, alignment with our inner core, strategic processes, and with action. This involves setting priorities. We have already seen which are high priority, medium priority, normal priority, and how it can have an impact on the results of our actions. So, in this final segment, friends, we translate all that strategic insights that we saw, the value driven principles, into concrete, actionable plans. So, this is where we bridge the gap between vision and its execution, focusing on how you, as leaders, can set the priorities and drive the impact within your spheres of influence, directly contributing to India's strategic goals. So we look into this part 3 of strategic indigenization and input cost reduction and a blueprint for a competitive a growth strategy. So, India's journey towards strategic indispensability requires a disciplined approach. It will require to build domestic capabilities. This isn't just about import substitution, it's just a blindly import and substitute, but it requires intelligent indigenization of it, adapting the Indian available resources, capacities, applicabilities, the jugaad, the Indian jugaad that we are famous for, but applied in an intelligent way that is lasting, that is built to last and which can compete in the international arena at international standards. A strategic effort to reduce vulnerability and build enduring national strengths. So, here for this third section, we have a tiered framework of strategic indigenization. So, tier 1 does critical vulnerabilities, where we are most vulnerable. This is of high strategic, it is very urgent. Okay. So these are goods, components, and technologies where denial of access would impose immediate national costs. So this is of high priority. So which are these areas? It would be defense systems, energy security, and public health. So action as leaders, identify tier 1 dependencies in your organization, in your sector, state, government, department. Advocate for and invest in establishing minimum assured domestic capacity, even if it is initially costly. So this requires disciplined support, not a permanent protection, a clear focus on specific time frames. That is, you relax regularly so as to enable them to independently stand on their own feet. Tier 2 is economically feasible capabilities. That is payoffs, strategic payoffs. So goods where domestic production is viable, but imports persist due to coordination failures, improper communication or discussions during dialogues or negotiations, the failures or early disadvantages. Example like electronic vehicle driven trains or medical devices. So here as a leader, you can champion initiatives that accelerate capability formation through scale, learning by doing, practical, integration into the global value chains, logistics. Seek temporary performance linked support if it's necessary, that can foster productivity, that can accelerate, that can build momentum in the organization. Cost convergence, export readiness, focus on export exposure as a critical discipline. Then we come to the tier 3, which is low strategic urgency or high cost substitution. When you substitute, it will involve high cost. So where import dependence doesn't create systemic vulnerability or domestic substitution would impose high costs. So as a strategic leader, what would you do? You exercise restraint. Instead of forced indigenization, manage the risk through diversified sourcing. Inventory buffers, keep sufficient stocks in times of need, or contractual safeguards. Recognize that restraint itself is a form of strategic discipline. So, a new national input cost reduction strategy, competitiveness as infrastructure. The challenge is high input costs, that is, raw materials, energy, logistics, compliance issues, state wise compliance issues, impose diffuse and persistent penalties on downstream manufacturing, exports, and employment. When this is the challenge, what we should do it impose, diffuse, and put persistent penalties. This will undermine competitiveness. This situation, which is a challenge, how you can overcome this. Your action will be to advocate for efficiency. Identify and address tariff inversion and other distortions that raise the input costs, the transport costs, energy costs. Push for rule based rather than sector specific input cost reduction policies. Internal cost optimization within the organization, do relentless audit. Even I have known of companies which do energy audit to reduce the consumption of electricity in the processes, the procedures involved from the source, from raw materials to the finished product. So this can reduce internal input costs. Streamline supply chains, negotiate effectively, and leverage technology to enhance the efficiency. Then, competitiveness as a foundation. Understand that when there are affordable, reliable, good inputs, quality inputs, they are basic foundation to competitiveness. Your efforts here directly strengthen when you can produce. So for example, the Indian the khadi silk, or for example the raw silk, the printed silks or the carpets. There's no substitute to that kind of quality. So it directly strengthens India's export potential and resilience. The next area where is advanced manufacturing as a disciplining system, where you can demand excellence. Advanced manufacturing is not just about producing the goods. It means stress test for state and for firms. It exposes the weaknesses and forces institutional upgrading. Quality controls, control checks. See that they fulfill international norms. For in the food industry area, see that all the quality, or the international norms of health standards are met. So this is a disciplining system that we need to adhere to. Otherwise, what we find of many of our products, food products, being rejected, even before it is, even at the time of delivery, even not accepted. These are the challenges, and which is really not palatable. The challenge here is sheltered activities can absorb for long periods. Weaknesses in infrastructure, logistics, regulations, and skills. Manufacturing, however, makes governance failures costly to conceal. So, if in the process of manufacturing itself, discipline is overlooked, then governance failures cannot help in any way. It will become very costly. You can't justify the means, right? So your action will be demand predictability and quality. Predictability in terms of delivery, timely delivery, adherence to norm, time frames, and quality as to the product. So as leaders, whether in the industry or the government, demand predictability rules, reliable infrastructure, faster logistics, enforceable contracts. Many times we forget to look at the fine print, where the catch is there in the deal or the contract. So your insistence on these standards forces the systems to improve. Process driven excellence. Focus on process control, quality and coordination. Embrace the global benchmarks. This means continuous improvement, continuous updating of the global benchmarks, not just meeting the minimum standards. Then, execution. This is not negotiable. Recognized that in advanced manufacturing systems, survival depends entirely on execution, not negotiation. This mindset shift is critical for building genuine capability. Learning and discipline. Emulate the East Asian models where learning becomes a capability only when paired with discipline. Learn with discipline. Support should be time bound and performance linked, fostering competitiveness and especially through export exposure. When you meet the export norms, naturally it will enforce a spirit of competitiveness and also fulfill quality standards. Then, when we move towards the power of deregulation, removing the friction that is strengthening the state, deregulation from a control point of view, the ongoing compliance reduction and deregulation initiative is a powerful example of state capacity in action. That is, if you delegate, is a kind of a decentralization. It demonstrates how disciplined removal of friction can strengthen the state performance. The challenge we face here is excessive regulations, procedural rigidities, bureaucratic risk aversion. All these impede economic activity and consume administrative bandwidth, not to mention the eco interferences as well. So, your action as leaders would be identify and eliminate these frictions within your own organization or sphere of influence. Identify and actively work to remove these redundant or overlapping, duplication, outdated processes and compliances. Weed them out rigorously, mercilessly, meticulously. Promote digitization. Champion the use of digital platforms for processes, approvals, and services. This enhances transparency, universal acceptability, reduces delays, and improves predictability. Risk based approaches advocate for risk based compliance frameworks and third party involvement in inspections. A third party certification or an inspection certificate gives more credibility to the product, to the manufacturing system, to the processes. This, wherever appropriate, shift from policing to this helps in problem solving also, because when a third person looks at it, a solution can be easily identified. Demand timeliness and accountability. Push for strict timelines for all regulatory and administrative actions. And there should be a consequence for non-compliance, for non-implementation of the time framework. Just as businesses face consequences for delays, so too should be the administrative purpose. Just as we have in the corporate finance, in the corporate legal system, the law of limitations. If for 90 days of payment, non-payment of an installment amounts it to become NPA, non-performing asset. So also in administrative processes, there should be consequences for non-compliance. If business decisions can be made in one go, there is no reason why state approvals cannot learn the same. So learn from best practices. Now, here the economic survey gives an example of certain deregulation efforts implemented in states like Tripura, Andaman and Nicobar. Of course, those are almost insignificant states. What about the conditions prevailing in complicated, big, large states like across the country? There are many big such states. So, finally, deregulation is not a retreat. It means strengthening of the state and your organization. And the next is setting personal and organizational development goals, leveraging the strength for impact. So here, now let's bring it all together. What we learned, the internal values, the strengths, the problems, the weaknesses, then your processes, and then your actionable checklist, or you can say the guidelines for actions, how to leverage your actionable steps. So let us bring it all together. Your development goals must clearly leverage your strength, your behavior, your skills, and address your developmental needs, all while aligning it to the broad strategic objectives that we have discussed. So, how do you actually put it into practice? Revisit your ultimate values and emotional states. Based on our discussion in the first part, identify one or two ultimate values, such as altruism or affiliation. Then one or two emotional states which you can manage more effectively, like reducing anxiety, channeling the anger constructively. Then you fix your goals. Fix the date. So how do you fix that goal? I by 31st March, I will initiate achieving this deposit targets or achieving this goal, or if it is an HRD, mentor two junior leaders, implement a weekly mindfulness practice, or if you want to strengthen a value emotional state, that is, be guilt free and enhance my leadership presence. So this is, as a leadership style, what will be the goal that you fix for yourself, and then align it with India's strategic imperatives. Consider the concepts of strategic resilience, strategic indispensability, entrepreneurial governance, and the role of the private sector, the state, and the citizens. So, in this case, what you can set as your goal by next year, say by 31st March of next year, I will launch a specific project. Say water cleansing system, that is reorientation of the dirty water into the clean water, or at least which can be used for irrigation or something. A new R&D initiative, or focus on a tier 2 indigenization, like implementation of certain locally sourced energy systems, or a cross functional task force to streamline internal processes by, say, 20%. So to contribute to a strategic imperative, to contribute to reduction in cost, or reducing the logistics difficulties in logistics, and improve your company's market share by from 2% to 3%, or serve a larger area, operational efficiency. So this is the way you can define your goal. Then next is leverage on your strengths and skills. Reflect on your unique talents, what you have. Communication or analytical thinking, team building, innovation. How can you apply these effectively? So how will you set your goal in this area? By, say, in another 2 years, I will utilize my strength as a stakeholder in negotiation, that is becoming a part of the team for negotiating the export contracts, or a technological expertise to bring a specific contract or outcome, secure an international partnership for export, integrate AI tools into production, resulting in a quantifiable impact, resulting in an increased revenue by a certain percentage. Then address developmental needs. Identify areas where you need to grow, where you have to upskill yourself, like learn a new skill, maybe a leadership competency or a knowledge gap. So here, how will you fix your goal for yourself? Say by in another 6 months time, by end of December, I will complete a specific learning activity. I will complete a course, a 6 months course on leadership or advanced analytics, a leadership coaching program to address my need for development in this area, and apply this learning to develop or develop the leadership skills of my subordinates, of my team members. So, what are the key principles that you follow in goal setting? Be smart. Ensure your goals, SMART is SMART, specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time bound. And then it should be action oriented. Focus on what you will do, not just what you think or feel or you want to do. Impact driven. Create, articulate, or clearly articulate what outcome you desire and its contribution to your team, your organization, and the national goals. How are they in alignment? Accountability. Share your goals with a trusted mentor, peer, or a team member, or create an accountability partner for yourself. Continuous review. Accountability is of no use if it's not reviewed periodically. So regularly review your progress. Learn from the setbacks. Adjust your strategies. Embody the spirit of learning and adaptation. Sometimes we all want a quick fix. We want a quick fix for everything. And this impatience will cost dearly. So that is why this comes the power of delayed gratification that we discussed earlier. Remember, delayed gratification is not a moral virtue, but a productive capability. The pursuit of Vikasit Bharat requires a long term vision, disciplined effort, and willingness to incur near term costs for returns and efforts. And the results may or may not happen. It's uncertain. It may be delayed. And it is often invisible. You are not going to be there to see it also. But the efforts need to be put in the present. As leaders, you must embody and instill this principle, resisting the urge for shortcuts that undermine the long term credibility and impact. So, from all this, we can conclude, what can we conclude about leading for India's future? India's leadership for future with a purpose. We have gone through a big journey in this more short span of time, seeing through three areas frameworks, from the deepest well springs of your own personal values to the grand strategic imperatives of a nation which is on the rise. We've explored how our inner GPS system, inner compass, can guide your leadership, how mastering your emotions fortifies your resolve, and how you take your strategic decisions to the next level. Whether now it may be small, big or small, but it will contribute in no small measure to India's ascent from resilience to indispensability. So, the world that India is entering into is more competitive, It is interconnected, technologically driven. It rewards steadiness, it rewards skills, maturity. It demands leaders who can act before certainty emerges. Correct course without paralysis. Align the incentives across the states, firms, and citizens. This is essential for a state's capacity building. This is the foundation which is strategically indispensable for that structure that needs to be built for that kind of a future. So, as you step back into your roles, remember your leadership is not merely about actively shaping the future, it's more than that. It's about fostering an entrepreneurial state that learns from its mistakes, that has a lifelong learning spirit. It learns from its mistake. A private sector that drives global competitiveness. A citizen that is ready to embrace its role of co-creating in national building, national capacity building. It's about a disciplined indigenization, relentless input cost reduction, and a commitment to advanced manufacturing systems that demands not only excellence but quality at every turn. It's about removing the friction, thoughtful deregulation, aligning the administrative energies to be direct, to be channelized into problem solving. So this is a real tough journey. It demands patience, demands discipline, it demands institutional courage. It requires alignment between intent and execution, between short term pressures and long term goals. If that kind of an alignment is achieved, then Atmanirbhar Bharat will be remembered as a doctrine of confident integration in a fractured world. So, friends, you are the leaders who will drive this transformation. You possess the scale, you possess the talent, you possess the democratic legitimacy to achieve it. Embrace the uncertainty, lead with purpose, and inspire those around you to contribute to a future. A future where India is not just a participant in global markets or a follower or a compliance partner, but a source of stability, capability, and that which can provide value to the world. Remember the words from the Bhagavad Gita? Karmanyavadikaraste ma phaleshu kadachana. You have a right to action alone, not to the fruits of your labor. So do not let the fruits of action be your motive, nor allow yourself to fall into inaction. Thank you.